Major funding for this Read 180 workshop is provided by the National Science Foundation, America's investment in the future.
At Jif Peanut Butter, we know just how choosy you are when it comes to your family, including the shows you value most. Public television encourages kids' curiosity and love of learning, and Jif is proud to support Cyberchase on behalf of all choosy moms and dads.
Intel Corporation is a proud supporter of PBS. The Intel Innovation in Education Initiative provides teachers with the resources to inspire their students and encourage them to unlock their potential.
And by a ready-to-learn television cooperative agreement from the U.S. Department of Education through the Public Broadcasting Service.
And by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. This program was also made possible by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to Workshop 6, Facing the Elements. Imagine being in the wild, away from phones, food, heat, and safety, with only yourself to rely on for survival. Could you do it? Cold, wind, rain. The harsh elements of nature can knock us to our knees if we underestimate their power. One bad decision could lead to deadly consequences. In this workshop, we'll see how people survive when nature's power pushes them to the limit. You'll read a story by the ultimate adventure writer, Jack London, about a man's life or death battle with bitter cold. Then, you'll get some poetic instructions for wilderness survival from poet David Wagoner. And in our video story, we'll revisit one of the deadliest days ever on Mount Everest, as climbers try to reach the top at all costs. Reading 1, To Build a Fire. Though he wrote 100 years ago, Jack London's rugged tales of survival and adventure are American classics to this day. To Build a Fire, set in the early 1900s, takes place in the Yukon, a bitterly cold part of Canada where the temperature can go as low as 60 degrees below zero. In Jack London's time, many men came to this frigid place, including London himself, trying to get rich. They headed up north to search for gold or work for logging companies. London never made his fortune here, but he struck gold writing about it. His stories made him the most famous American writer of his time. The characters in this short story, a man and his dog, battle the harsh Yukon wilderness. The dog seems to sense what the man doesn't, that some places are unfit for man or beast. Reading 2, Staying Alive. Like Jack London, David Wagoner writes about the wilderness, observing what happens when people confront the forces of nature. His poems are about the wonders and the risks of the natural world. His poem, Staying Alive, reads like a survival guide. The setting is the woods. The character, who could be anyone, is lost and alone. The poem suggests ways to survive in this setting: where to camp, what to eat, how to cope. But when you listen to the poem, you may also hear deeper advice for how to survive your own loneliness and fear. Because sometimes, life is like being lost in the woods. Staying Alive by David Wagoner. Staying alive in the woods is a matter of calming down at first and deciding whether to wait for rescue, trusting to others, or simply to start walking and walking in one direction till you come out, or something happens to stop you. By far the safer choice is to settle down where you are and try to make a living off the land, camping near water, away from shadows. Eat no white berries, spit out all bitterness. If you have no matches, a stick and a fire bow will keep you warmer. Or the crystal of your watch, filled with water, held up to the sun, will do the same in time. In case of snow drifting toward winter, don't try to stay awake through the night, afraid of freezing. The bottom of your mind knows all about zero. It will turn you over and shake you till you waken. If you hurt yourself, no one will comfort you or take your temperature. So stumbling, waiting, and climbing are as dangerous as flying. But if you decide, at last, you must break through, in spite of all danger, think of yourself by time and not by distance, counting wherever you're going by how long it takes you. No other measure will bring you safe to nightfall. Follow no streams. They run under the ground or fall into wilder country. Remember the stars and moss when your mind runs into circles. If it should rain or the fog should roll the horizon in around you, hold still for hours or days if you must, or weeks, for seeing is believing in the wilderness. And if you find a pathway, wheel, rut, or fence, wire, retrace it left or right. Someone knew where he was going once upon a time, and you can follow, hopefully, somewhere, just in case. There may even come, on some uncanny evening, a time when you're warm and dry, well-fed, not thirsty, uninjured, without fear, when nothing, either good or bad, is happening. This is called staying alive. It's temporary. What occurs after is doubtful. You must always be ready for something to come bursting through the far edge of a clearing, running towards you, grinning from ear to ear, and hoarse with welcome. Or something crossing and hovering overhead, as light as air, like a break in the sky, wondering what you are. Here you are, face to face with the problem of recognition. Having no time to make smoke, too much to say, you should have a mirror with a tiny hole in the back for better aiming, for reflecting whatever disaster you can think of to show the way you suffer. These body signals have universal meaning. If you are lying flat on your back with arms outstretched behind you, you say you require emergency treatment. If you are standing erect and holding arms horizontal, you mean you are not ready. If you hold them over your head, you want to be picked up. 3 of anything is a sign of distress. Afterward, if you see no ropes, no ladders, no maps or messages falling, no searchlights or trails blazing, then, chances are, you should be prepared to burrow deep for a deep winter. Mount Everest is the highest point on Earth, rising over 29,000 feet in Nepal's Himalaya Mountains. At 26,000 feet, you enter the death zone, the place where the thin air and extreme cold are so harsh to humans that many don't make it out alive. The challenge of climbing Everest is the ultimate dream for some, but it turned into the ultimate nightmare for one group of climbers who found themselves stranded in the death zone. On May 9, 1996, dozens of climbers were headed for the summit of the world's tallest mountain, Mount Everest. Within 48 hours, 8 of them would be dead, and others would be fighting for their lives. One of them was Beck Weathers, who learned firsthand about the cruel odds of the death zone.
For every 6 people that go up the top part of that mountain, one of them gets to die.
The drama began to unfold around midnight, when the climbers started the final grueling ascent to the summit from a camp at 26,000 feet. To protect them from exhaustion and the dangers of climbing in the dark, the expedition leaders had a rule. If you didn't make it to the summit by 2 p.m. the next day, you had to turn back, no matter what. The mountain was crowded that day. As many as 50 climbers were going for the summit, creating a traffic jam that slowed down the march to the top. While some were already celebrating at the summit, the route below was still jammed with exhausted climbers. The 2 p.m. deadline came and went. Now it was getting dark, and a storm was brewing. But Beck Weathers and many others were still in the death zone, making the treacherous descent back down to camp. The storm was upon them in no time, and suddenly they were lost in a raging blizzard. staggering blindly through the snow. The winds picked up to 70 miles an hour, and the wind chill factor dropped to 100 degrees below zero. Too weak to go on and nearly frozen, they desperately huddled together for warmth. They stayed that way for hours, pounding on each other's backs to stay alive. When the storm was over, Beck Weathers was found buried under the snow and left for dead. No one knew it, but Beck was alive. He was frozen and unconscious, but somehow woke up and dragged himself back to camp. A daring helicopter rescue helped save his life, but he lost much of his right arm, his left hand, and most of his nose to severe frostbite. When it was all over, 8 people were found dead between the camp and the summit. The deadliest disaster in Everest history. Did time make all the difference? Did the climbers take the risks for granted? We'll never know. But the survivors, like Beck Weathers, do know they're lucky to be alive.
I am a blessed person, and a lot of people are, but I know it.